Nice curtains. We like them, huh? Seem pretty clean. Interesting texture. A bit rougher than you'd expect. If you were wondering. Knowing my crowd, at least 3 of you were sitting there wondering. I walked past the line when I got here. I saw some of you. You look like what RFK is trying to cure. That prick.
Say hello to comedian Dan Lamort, who has some harsh words for the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
His new one today, he said he's going to find out the cause of autism by September. He's treating it like some Scooby-Doo villain. Like he's just going to pull a mask off. It's been Skittles the whole time. Specifically the red ones. What a weirdo. Dude, there's so many pictures of that guy online with his shirt tucked into his jeans and he's holding a lizard, like, and it's like, you can't solve what you might have to, dude. You like stuff like us. Stop being a prick about it.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're having a good Independence Day weekend. I just made my morning hike, and I caught this bluebelly. They're also called western fence lizards. Look how beautiful that little fella is. Anyway, I'm going to let him go, of course. I'll say goodbye. Tilly's pointing on the lizard.
One of those pictures was with disgraced comedian Russell Brand, who has predictably reinvented himself as a hyper-Christian guy after allegations of sexual misconduct took place, and another Trump nominee, Dr. Oz.
It's weird that's his thing. I used to joke the world was ready for an autistic president, and then we got Elon Musk. I didn't know that. Somehow one got in on a loophole.
Well done. If somehow you missed RFK Jr.'s comments...
This is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children.
Which were not only false, but in my view, insane.
At 31 years old, Tony Snell is living his dream. He's come a long way from growing up in South Central Los Angeles and has defied the odds again and again.
I could have easily joined in some gangs or did all negative things back then, but basketball just kept me on the straight and narrow and kept me on the path that I wanted to be in.
Last year, Tony and his wife Ashley noticed their little boy Carter was starting to miss some developmental milestones.
By 18 months, he still wasn't talking. He was doing a lot of stimming. So it's like this kind of movement always has to have like 6 or 7 toys in his hands. Usually one is always a basketball. So the doctor was like, well, we need to get him tested for autism.
I was always independent growing up, always been alone. I just couldn't connect with people in the personal side of things.
At the age of 31, Tony was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
Were you surprised? I was not surprised because I always felt different. I was just relieved, like, oh, this is why I am the way I am. And it just made my whole life, everything about my life, makes so much sense.
Hey guys, quick break in the action. I have a new show coming out called The Rick Strom Show. It is going to be awesome. I'm interviewing musicians, athletes, producers, writers, journalists, authors, sports doctors. Go check it out at youtube.com/@TheRickStrom Show. Also be sure to throw me a follow on Instagram, Threads, blue sky. It can all be found in the description box below. Thank you. Tony Snell, who you just saw, was a first-round draft pick by my Chicago Bulls, number 20 overall. For about 10 years, he played professionally in the NBA. He's currently in the G League. When a pair of nannies would suggest getting his son Carter diagnosed, Snell's internal alarm bells went off, and he saw what resonated with him during those tests. Thus, he would learn, after getting a test, like his son, he was on the spectrum as well.
And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date.
And now this trend has hit TikTok. Plus,
Okay, pause. Autistic teacher here that's married with a master's degree in clinical social work, and I definitely didn't ruin my family's lives. What an incredibly problematic thing you just out of your mouth. First of all, I would think that someone in your position would know that autism is not a disease. It's a neurodevelopmental condition that falls under a spectrum and presents differently in everyone that has it. What you just said further harms, stereotypes, and stigmatizes people with autism. Many people with autism will date, have jobs, and oh my god, of course, pay taxes. And those of us who cannot are not less than. We just need more support than others. But what I really have an issue with is use that people who are autistic ruin families.
because on that front, in 1998, RFK Jr. and his wife Mary hired 23-year-old Eliza Cooney to be a live-in babysitter. She wrote in her diary of the inappropriate behavior of RFK Jr., including him, quote, rubbing his hand up and down her thigh under the kitchen table. At another point, he went into her bedroom and wanted Cooney to rub lotion on his back. She called it, quote, highly inappropriate. RFK Jr. would begin groping her hips, ribcage, and chest, and didn't stop until interrupted by another staff member when the babysitter was searching the pantry. In a book written by Maureen Callahan titled Ask Not, the Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed, the following excerpt would read, Bobby was never around, ever. He didn't have a job that required travel, yet he traveled all the time. When he did swoop in, he'd take one or all of the children on some adventure and leave Mary behind. She had become persona non grata, despite hosting all the dinner parties, the 4th of July BBQs, the celebrity-studded fundraisers, despite raising their children. Another excerpt. Mary had been seeing a therapist, sometimes alone, sometimes with RFK Jr. Her name, Sheena Hankin. She specialized in high-profile clients. When RFK Jr. asked Mary to be diagnosed as mentally ill, Hankin refused. Quote, your wife isn't mentally ill. She is angry and depressed, but she is not ill. Then RFK Jr. did the following. By April of 2012, actress Cheryl Hines of Curb Your Enthusiasm fame entered the picture, and from the book. Bobby was making ruthless moves now. He cut off Mary's credit card, court approved for $20,000 a month in living expenses. She was no longer welcome at the Kennedy compound. Her checking account had a zero balance. She was reduced to asking other moms at the school run if they had an extra $20 so she could get gas and groceries. The whole town knew she was broke. After unaliving herself, Bobby would call her an alcoholic. Just 1 week after the funeral, in the middle of the night, without telling Mary's family, her siblings, what have you, or obtaining the required legal permit, Bobby Jr. had Mary's coffin dug up from the Kennedy family plot in the state of Massachusetts and moved 700 feet away. When reporters found out and asked why, Kennedy Jr., through a family spokesperson, said he failed to realize how crowded the Kennedy family plot was. So Mary, his ex-wife, was left to face traffic. No headstone marking her grave, buried alone. Oof. During her time on Earth, Richardson claimed he misled her about the extent of his numerous affairs, branding him a sexual deviant and sex addict, as she was in possession of texts and photos from his phone related to all of this. She was alleged also that the anti-vax crusader, RFK Jr., previously admitted to being a heroin addict for more than a decade and was physically abusive toward her, and he also misused prescription medication. So I ask, who is ruining lives, RFK?
We want to get right to that tragedy that has struck the Kennedy family. The estranged wife of Robert Kennedy Jr., Mary Richardson, was found hanging in her garage yesterday. It looks like she killed herself.
You know what else has crushed families?
Autism does not ruin families, but do you know what does? Cutting off a whale's head using a chainsaw in front of your children and then taking that whale head, putting it on top of your car and then driving it for 5 hours while the juices leak on your children inside. Autism can be stressful. Many conditions out there are. People who are autistic are not diseased. We are not less than. While some of us might need more support than others, we are not a burden. You shouldn't need a pre-K teacher to tell you that.
Helping to destroy families using anti-vaccine rhetoric and practices.
In late 2019, though, the country was in a public health crisis, not from a new threat like COVID, but from a very old killer of kids that had once been nearly eradicated, measles. By December, almost 4,000 cases had been reported in a country of 200,000, roughly the same population as Des Moines, Iowa. And 55 people, mostly children under the age of 4, had died. The tiny nation imposed a 2-day national lockdown. Citizens were stuck in their homes to stop the spread. Government volunteers fanned out to help families in need. An international health effort was underway. The Samoan government even asked the US CDC for help. By the time the Samoan government declared an end to the epidemic, 83 people had died. Again, most of them kids. Now remember, we're talking about measles here, a disease that was almost eliminated worldwide thanks to safe, effective and cheap vaccine. No, that was down to 67%. And in the 1-year period from 2017 to 2018, it dropped down to about 40%. What happened to send the rate so low in 2018 specifically? Well, a growing anti-vaccine movement found a story to rally around. But those facts did not matter to Samoan anti-vaxxers. Instead of telling the truth, they claimed that the vaccine itself was responsible for the deaths. And they got help from a US-based anti-vax group, Children's Health Defense, which took to Facebook to question the safety of the vaccines that those infants received. The founder of Children's Health Defense, a prominent American anti-vax activist, would later tell a Samoan newspaper that he had the Prime Minister's ear on the issue and that the island nation's leader had privately shared his doubts about the safety of immunizing the public. That activist, quote unquote, had become something of a celebrity in Samoa. He was honored as a guest of the Prime Minister. He met with local anti-vax activists. Who was this American anti-vaxxer who bragged after the epidemic about his sway with the Samoan leader? Actually, he's the reason why I'm telling you all this.
When I am the President of the United States, I am going to end the chronic disease epidemic in this country.
RFK Jr., who heads the anti-vax Children's Health Defense Network, which has since been banned from Facebook and Instagram for spreading misinformation. RFK Jr., who in June 2019, along with his wife, actress Cheryl Hines, was a special guest of the Samoan Prime Minister at the country's Independence Day celebration. While on that trip, Kennedy also just happened to meet with one of Samoa's most prominent anti-vaxxers, and she posted a pic of them together on Instagram, along with the hashtag investigate before you vaccinate. And as more children died that November, Kennedy sent the Samoan Prime Minister a letter pressing him to investigate whether those children died not of measles, but ridiculously of exposure to the measles vaccine. Quote, children who received the live measles virus during Samoa's recent vaccination drive may have shed the virus and inadvertently infected vulnerable children. He added, it is a regrettable possibility that these children are causalities of Merck's vaccine. He probably meant casualties. Either way, he didn't know what he was talking about. Remember, Kennedy is an environmental lawyer with zero qualifications to talk about vaccines or healthcare of any kind.
This man is coming after autism. He's coming after those with disabilities. And he is practicing eugenics. This should be, for everybody, a red line moment. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.